Beyond Lumina, Episode 18, Requiem. Sergeant Major Ravim, report, called a stern voice. These Ascendancy ships came through your sector and you retreated before calling for aid. Now we've lost the orbital position without a fight. What do you have to say for yourself? Sir, Ravim began to his commanding officer. I apologize, but we had no chance of victory with the amount of ships they sent in the initial wave. All I could do was think of the safety of my crew and retreat. Our positions looked too scattered to convene in time to drive them off. I thought our best chance was to regroup here and defend our ground position until reinforcements can come to flank their position in space. That wasn't your call to make, the third person in the room with them retorted. I can't believe you'd go over Captain Bengard's head like that. It's all right, Ravina, said the captain to his lieutenant. On Lumina, I don't know why you decided to act without at least telling me, Ravim, but we've known each other long enough. I trust you were acting as you thought best. I just hope we can find a way out of it now that they've breached our orbital defenses. Ravim looked to be contemplating this for a moment, then said with a sigh, I understand, Captain. So do I. However, the two of you are not even going to make it out of this room. Quickly, he pulled two concentrated plasma pistols from their holsters and shot both of his superiors down in cold blood before they had any time to react. His heart racing, Ravim tried to gathering himself as best he could and move the bodies of Captain Bengard and Lieutenant Mervavrik out of sight. Just then, someone tried making contact with him. It was Master Sergeant Maloon. Commander Ravim, come in, sir, she said. Yes, Sergeant. Ravim tried to answer with a steady voice. What is it? You have another update for me already? Yes, sir, sort of, Maloon replied. The Corporal and I have left Inigon and are on our way back to Ravina, but we saw an incoming ship before we left local space. And there was no doubt in my mind it was a Ravinian ship, most likely coming for Aezic Zin. Ravim thought hard for a moment, then smiled. I see. Thank you for the update, Sergeant Maloon. That may be useful information indeed. Maloon then asked, Sir, what would you have us do about the Ravinian ship? Surely you don't want them to get to Aezic before the Alliance does. It's all right, Ravim replied. Let them continue onward to Inigon. Don't try to stop them. Just return here. We have new orders to fulfill. Copy that, sir, Maloon said and cut comms. She wasn't sure what to make of it all. It didn't make sense to put so much effort into trying to bring Aezic in, just to allow him to be saved by someone else. And where did that Ravinian frigate come from anyway? As far as she knew, there were too few Ravinian military left to manage a vessel like that, let alone think about arriving at a place like Inigon just for one man. It was all so strange, but she trusted Ravim. Meanwhile, Ravim opened comms with someone else just after Maloon had called. Yes, sir, he started. It's done. And I have even better news. They've finally made contact with Zin. The din of battle rang across the mainland coast of the pre-space planet of Inigon, as Aezic and Vala, along with the chief and his cohorts they had met on the neighboring island, stormed the secret Ascendancy facilities where Zario had been taken. Within the facility, the fight raged on, and Aezic, after finally gathering himself following a particularly nasty episode of headaches, looked up to see that Chief Oshu had saved his life by parrying the killing blow of Master Dark, one of the Ascendancy leaders present. Lucky for him, Oshu saw Aezic go down and was able to deal a critical blow to Low Master Call and knock him out cold. Go help the others, the chief instructed Aezic. I'll take care of him. But Chief, Aezic tried to respond. Go, Oshu repeated. You won't be of any use here in your current state. He clashed once more with Dark, who was growing frustrated with the fight the two warriors were putting up, and over the fact that his subordinate had failed and now lay in a crumpled, slumbering heap, very ill-befitting one of his rank. Using on Oshu the same sort of tactics he did on Aezic, Master Dark said, "Perhaps it is you who ought to go, native. Perhaps your little village isn't as safe as you think, especially with all of your warriors fighting here." "What does that mean?" Aezic asked him. "Didn't you find it a little odd that such a facility was manned by a High Master, with only one of his masters here? Surely you aren't that naive, Lieutenant," Dark added chidingly. "Lumina, I should have known better," Aezic thought. Then he said to Oshu, "You need to get back to the island. All of you, hurry. Let us handle the rest of these guys." Oshu was infuriated by the taunt, however, and clashed with the Ascendancy Master with full force, surprising him and setting him off balance, after a swift combination of attacks. Then the chief struck with vengeance and slew Master Dark, who doubled over at first, trying to hang on before finally succumbing to the grievous wound. Seeing two of their leaders go down, many of the Ascendancy soldiers began to retreat farther into the facility. Oshu didn't want to leave Aezic in their current mission, but he was concerned about his people's safety, especially that of his daughters. There were still some warriors and guards back in the city, but they couldn't be certain how many Ascendancy were attacking based on what Dark said, or whether he was even telling the truth at all. Aezic didn't want to take the chance. Oshu glanced at the Ascendancy leader, High Master Ren, but Aezic said, "I can take care of him. Don't worry about me." Then Ankh, nearby, dueling with Crag, told his chief, "Go back. We will stay with the Outlanders." The chief was slightly reluctant to agree, but he didn't feel he could delay any longer. "Fine. Good luck, and return quickly yourselves," he said, and retreated with most of the native warriors back to their island. Ankh had by then dealt several critical blows to Crag, who remained fighting through it. But once the situation grew dire, and Ankh's own concern for his people grew, he held nothing back, and attacking with all his skill, might, and courage, slashed at Crag's right arm, cutting through the synth plate and rendering the appendage useless as the Ascendancy warrior dropped his concentrated plasma blade. Realizing he was defeated, Crag also fled the battle with the few soldiers who remained back into the compound. High Master Ren's heightened anger seemed to darken the very room as his plans were unraveling. With a menacing roar, he shouted, "I'll deal with him myself then, you fools." Drawing his own concentrated plasma blade, he approached Aezic. "You die here, you worm." Aezic looked at Ankh and Vala. "Go, find Zario and get out of here. Hurry." They hesitated only a moment, but obeyed the order, and along with the other native warriors, stormed into the inner parts of the facility to search for their ally. Aezic then turned to High Master Ren. "Don't think about trying to stop them," he said. "I don't care about them," Ren answered. "Only about taking your head." Aezic didn't get why Ren would personally dislike him so much, but he didn't really care. "Then come and try," he replied, brandishing his own blade, as the two elite warriors prepared to do battle to the death. Excuse me, voter," said Grim, the traitorous Ascendancy soldier, to Glaus. He had just come looking for his benefactor after Glaus had himself gone in search of one of the natives who might know how to speak common. He figured checking around the royal palace, if that's what it was the best plan, so he hadn't gone far. "Yes, my boy," Voter Glaus addressed the young soldier. "Is something wrong?" "I can't say for sure," Grim replied, "but I just received an attack beacon through my gear. If it's real, it has to be close for my equipment to pick it up. I think they might be coming here. Do you think the others lost so quickly?" The news was unsettling indeed. Glaus knew they had to act. The situation was too tense to do otherwise. "Come," he told Grim. "We need to warn the natives." As the two left, Glaus then remembered that, despite what seemed to be warnings from their father to stay in the palace, he had seen the two Inagonian princesses again secretly wander into the forest Let us hurry, he added. Lumina began to fade beyond the rugged Ravinian horizon, as the ragtag group of rebels recollected themselves after the battle, and formally met the mercenaries that showed up to help them. So, the rebel leader named Kama began, once Hawk, Mecha, and Argyle reunited with Valen. Who exactly are you? Don't get me wrong, we appreciate the help, but help isn't something we come by very often here anymore. You might just have to call us your new best friends, Hawk answered amicably. As I told one of your officers here, we're a group of mercenaries from off-world who happen to know a lot about what's going on here, and are probably even more wanted by our mutual enemy than you are. Enough said, replied Kama. You had me at mutual enemy. You mind sharing what you know? We can head back to our hideout nearby and come up with a plan to stop this invasion. The sky remained full of Ascendancy ships in orbit over Cronus Prime. Actually, we need to head down south to Bikaron right now, Hawk answered. We just came from Animov, where these fake soldiers were housing a bunch of citizens. They destroyed the facility, but we were able to save the people inside. Now, though, they're trying to get whoever else they can to head down to Bikaron, we assume to a similar facility. The Animov facility is gone? Kama asked in shock. We tried to infiltrate it quietly ourselves, but we weren't able to get anyone out. We were at least able to snag ourselves a new ship, though. We weren't sure exactly what they were doing up there, but if you say they're trying the same thing in the south, then let's go bust it up before it even begins. My thoughts exactly, Hawk replied. We will take the bikes down and meet you there, I assume after you take care of this fella. He referred to the captured Lowmaster Gore. Is your ship close by? Always, the rebel leader said, then activated a communication device. Hey, Green, we need a pickup. We've got business in Bikaron now. A moment later came the voice of a young woman. It's about time, Kama. We've been worried about you guys ever since the firefight stopped. We're on our way. Several more moments later, a frigate-class ship appeared from a nearby canyon and hovered its way over to the small militia. As it approached, the mercenaries looked up in surprise. Hey, Hawk said. That's our ship. Kita and Katash, the daughters of the chief of Inagon, had snuck down to the coast near the underwater cove's entrance. They were experts at maneuvering past the guards at this point, having done it so often. In the past, the girls would look for different animals, or find flowers or berries to gather, or just run through the magnificent forests of their home. Nowadays, Kita was mostly interested in following Ankh, with whom she was set to make a life bond, making him the future chief of their people. Katash still just wanted to follow her sister, though she found the adventures much more boring now. But today was a little different than usual. Normally, they weren't worried about what may happen to Ankh and their father, and all the other warriors that had gone to battle some foe from an unknown world. Today, the channel between their island and the mainland seemed to hold a dense and menacing pall, silent but crushing, of the fear and rage that boiled over in battle. But it was closer than they thought. Moments later, they heard what sounded like one of the guards crying out in pain, then a few crashing noises and the thud. That was followed by several other similar occurrences before the girls saw one of the guards for themselves lying dead on the forest floor. Intense fear instantly gripped them both as they made a mad dash back toward the city. More warriors were appearing from time to time, coming toward the coast from their home, and they saw several fall immediately as they defended Kita and Katash from the oncoming menace that remained hidden in the thickets, in the onslaught of the blasts of light that slew their kinsmen. They ran as fast as they could through their forest home, which now seemed a strange and unknown place in their hysteria, with branches and thorns scraping and lacerating them as they went, though they were too frightened to notice. Just then, the flashes of light reached the girls. Kita, her eyes half closed in terror, tried to run even faster than her legs could take her. She tripped over a log, then glancing behind her saw that Katosh wasn't there. Looking farther back without stopping, she saw her younger sister lying unmoving on the leafy bed of the forest floor, a black burn in the center of her back. Ida stopped dead in her tracks, forgetting the danger that advanced closer every second. She fell to her knees in shock as the Ascendancy soldiers came into view of her. She didn't notice. She also didn't notice when they began to fire again. But another man, dressed in only half of the enemy's armor, jumped in front of her, blocking with his arm a blast from the space weapon. "Ah!" he cried out in pain as the fiery shot seared through his armor and charred his flesh. It was Grim. At the same time, a younger man and an old man in long robes also came trouncing through the forest. The old man, it was Glaus, shook Kita and shouted at her, trying to get her to snap out of her shock. "My lady, we must go, please!" He kept yelling over and over, until Grim just grabbed the girl, and the three made off with her toward the city once again. The few remaining warriors who were still coming from the city saw them, and luckily had already seen Glaus and Artis in the city several times, to know that they were allies, and so the Inagonian warriors covered their escape with the native princess. The warriors were slowly able to begin halting the advance of the Ascendancy soldiers, though they could only do so much. Once they saw the plasma-burned body of Katosh, their chief's daughter, however, the blood of the natives boiled, and their rage began to turn the tide of the battle. They fought back with every ounce of strength they had, determined to not let the despicable Outlanders take another step toward the rest of their people. Back and forth the momentum nevertheless shifted, as the rest of the Ascendancy forces finally arrived in the forest, and by sheer numbers began to overwhelm the natives once more, despite their heavy casualties. Just then, from behind the native lines came such a roar of pain and anger that all stopped for a moment, for fear of some massive, wild beast about to burst into the frayed clearing. Even worse for the Ascendancy, it was Chief Oshu and more of the Inagonian warriors, and the chief had just found his youngest daughter. Then Oshu did indeed burst into the clearing like a massive, wild beast, but with even greater ferocity. He slew several soldiers in only a few swings of his blade, rampaging through their back lines with the rest of his men behind him. The warriors defending the city were emboldened and re-inspired, once more turning the tide of battle in favor of the natives. High Master Rend was furious as he mustered all his skills to do battle with Aezic. Rend had heard that the Alliance lieutenant was extremely adept at swordplay, but he was taken aback at his prowess in reality. The High Master himself was known for his elite abilities with the blade as well, but he wasn't as young as he once was. Aezic had mostly recovered from his headache in the previous battle, mostly due to adrenaline, and he felt like he had High Master Rend on the defensive as the rest of his allies stormed the facility to rescue Zarya. As the two broke from their clash for a moment, now that the room was mostly quiet and devoid of life besides the two combatants, they heard a noise in the distant sky like an approaching ship. Rend smiled wryly. "Well, Lieutenant," he mocked, "looks like your time is up. My reinforcements have arrived. Did you really think we would be the only Ascendancy outpost on this backwater planet?" Aezic gritted his teeth in anger and frustration, trying to think of an answer. "We might get trapped in here," he thought. "Our only chance might be to take this facility and defend it for ourselves. But being that it's an Ascendancy outpost, that isn't a very safe option either. Chances are they can trigger a remote self-destruction sequence." He didn't know what to do. But then, the loud tearing of metal and a chain of explosions rang down the coastline. Both Aezic and Rend stopped in confusion, wondering what had just happened, until a huge Ascendancy frigate came crashing down into the sea outside the entryway, its hull splintered with huge Aetherium spikes. "The traitorous native scum!" Rend roared when he realized what had happened. The ship had been shot down in the same manner as the escape pod of Aezic and the others. Vala, Ankh, and the rest of the native warriors pressed forward into the compound, searching and clearing all the rooms they came across, and scattering the remaining Ascendancy soldiers. The Inagonians didn't want to delay any longer than necessary, for they too wanted to return to defend their island from whatever the potential threat Master Dark had mentioned. The group met little resistance as they advanced deeper and deeper, until finally they came to a large laboratory of some sort. As soon as they entered, the lights and all the machinery flashed brightly to life, startling Vala and the natives, until they realized they were motion activated. In the center of the room, on a cold metal table, was an unconscious Zario, bound ankle and wrist by synth cuffs. Rushing into the room, Vala located the controls for the cuffs, freed him, then ran to see if he was all right. The natives were about to hoist him onto a stretcher they found nearby, but he started to come to. "Ugh," he groaned, shaking his head slightly. He was aware enough to recognize the Free World Sergeant. "Vala," he said groggily. "Vala, I think we have to go somewhere. I can't remember, but it's bad. Just rest now, and keep still," Vala instructed him as gently as she could in their haste. "The natives are going to get you out of here. We're leaving right away." "You got to be careful," Zario managed to speak again. "The Ascendancy, they have..." "I know," Vala answered somberly. "We saw it all on our way here. Well, we saw something. But it can wait. We've cleared the facility for now. We can make it out without a problem. Just rest now." The group hurried their way out of the facility, the same way they came, and in a short time re-entered the main hangar, where Aezic and High Master Rend continued their duel. Both had taken significant damage, and Rend had aimed to fight him to the death. But once he saw the others arrive with Zario, he knew he had lost. "Curse you all!" he bellowed, smacking away Aezic's blade and making a hasty retreat. "This isn't over, Zin. You can be sure of that. We will meet again, and I will have your head." He didn't wait to hear Aezic's response, instead quickly retreating into the compound. "I'll be ready," Aezic said to himself, disengaging his concentrated plasma blade, as Vala, Zario, Ankh, and the other natives reached him. "Come on, let's get out of here." Exiting the facility, the others saw what had become of the Ascendancy reinforcements. "Calavites!" Ankh exclaimed with hope. The battle had again spilled from the other side of the compound toward the beachhead, where the group was greeted by what looked to the Outlanders like a commander from a different native tribe than the one they had already met. He approached them without hesitation, as Ankh did him, and they spoke quickly in their native tongue. Ankh, referring to the off-worlders, must have said something indicating he could speak freely in common, so the commander told them, "We saw our Selvite neighbors here engage these Outlanders in battle, and though we have been aiding these wretched people since they arrived, we have not done so willingly. We are happy to fight now at your side to rid our world of them. However, they are more widespread here on Kalava than you may realize. It won't be an easy feat, but we may yet achieve victory if we are able to unite the other tribes and work together. Especially," he now addressed Aezic directly, "if we have our own off-world support." "The time has indeed come to destroy these intruders, my brother," replied Ankh warmly. "But first we must return at once to aid my people. The enemy has snuck into Selvas while we fought here." "Go then, and hurry," said the commander. "We will hold the foe here on our shores and let no more cross to your island." Make haste, and may the warrior spirit go with you. The group quickly made their way across the channel on simple ascendancy vessels, their anxiety and tension increasing as they caught sight of the other ascendancy ships already on the opposite shoreline. As they got closer, from the other shore came a massive explosion that shook their vessel and sent huge waves toward them. "Just hold on, everyone," Aezic called out. "The ships will make it through. We can't do anything about that yet. Just hope that our allies over there are safe. It's too late to go back now." The ships did hold up, and the waves sent them toward their destination a little quicker, though it shook up the passengers quite a bit. Making it to the other side, though, it was not long before the din of the raging battle was heard, and the wrath-filled words of the natives could be discerned. Nearly all at once, with loud lamenting, the entire group of native warriors wailed in sorrow and anger. Aezic, Vala, and even the half-conscious Zarya were startled by such a show of emotion so suddenly. What? What is it?" Aezic asked quickly. He had to ask several times before finally Ankh gave a choked answer. "They say, the chief's daughter, she is dead."